On a good period where I'm really heavy, I'll very easily go to about $1 million in equity at one time.
Maybe you think it's all about gambling.
A day trader is someone who missed the bus to Atlantic City, it seems to me. And if it wasn't for this, they're pulling slot machines and throwing dice.
Maybe you think it's all about greed.
Unbelievable. It's kind of like a drug, I think.
Then maybe you should remember that every day trader has a mother who loves him.
I'd like to see him out of the house. You know, he's 27 years old. I'd like to see him get married.
You know, hopefully I'm going to make 4 times what my dad made this year. It took him 25 years to get to this point.
He's waiting. He's saving up to get him a ring. I mean, I assume he's not making enough.
I should make 4 times what he made this year if I keep up what I'm doing right now. To me, that's ludicrous, that I can do that.
He always tells me, I should have done this, I would have done that, I could have got that. And we go through this every day, and I tell him, get a job.
Tonight, day trader. Life in the very fast lane.
From ABC News, this is Nightline. Reporting from Washington, Ted Koppel.
They held a memorial service in Atlanta today for all the people killed by Mark Barton, but this is not a program about them or him. I mention that only because this is a program about day traders, and he was a day trader. There's been some speculation that the pressure of Barton's financial losses could have been a factor in pushing him over the edge, but there have been plenty of tragedies that flowed out of people losing their money in Vegas or Atlantic City, and all the casinos are still open. No, what the Barton story did do is focus even more attention on what happens when the individual investor gets to harness the power of a high-speed computer to the process of making and losing large sums of money more quickly than it's ever been done before. Independent reporter and videographer David Turicamo first became intrigued by that proposition a couple of months back. Who are these day traders and why do they do it? Well, many of them, as you will hear later on, are former commodities traders who miss the action. But some are just exactly what you'd expect. Young people who see a chance to make a fast buck.
This is Kenny Glick, 27 years old. He's a day trader. I know you've heard a lot about day trading lately, but actually, Kenny does pretty well. Probably makes about 6 figures a year, though he won't tell me exactly. But Kenny's got a bigger problem, and it's not about whether his stocks go up or down. No, Kenny's problem is, well, talk to his mother.
What is it your son does?
If you ask me, I don't even know. I tell him, go get himself a job. And he tells me he's got a job. He gets very upset when I tell him I don't think he's got a job. Yeah. To me, a job is get up, you work from 9 to 5, you have medical coverage, you're getting a set salary, you have a boss. To me, this is not a job.
So all she knows is that I buy and sell stocks somehow. She doesn't understand who I buy them from. She doesn't understand who I sell them to. Why is anybody buying them from me? She wants to know, you know?
And I said to him, like, what happens if, God forbid, he gets injured or something happens in the stock market? You know, he has nothing to fall back on, except, of course, I'm letting him live here for nothing. I keep telling him, make the money, get engaged, and get out of the house. And he's still here. I guess I treat him too good. Yeah.
Several things created day trading, not just greed. It's a combination of the internet and technology, 17-year bull market, and changes in the securities trading regulations.
How many people you got here? It's about 125. We're going to open up another 70 stations next week, and I think we'll fill them pretty quickly.
This is one of the biggest operations, Broadway trading. In order to trade here, you have to take a week-long seminar.
Unfortunately, a lot of people in day trading jump into this without really understanding what they're getting into. And the good
Mark Friedfertig not only runs Broadway trading, but he wrote the best-selling Bible of the industry.
The first book sold 120,000 copies, and perhaps more impressive is we get 40, 50, I think the number's in the 60s now, of inquiries every day from people that read the book that want to learn more.
But if you want to get through this learning curve, don't lose more than $5,000 in any given month.
Most of these people here are people who've been on the internet, investors of some kind, day trading in some facet. I mean, these people aren't just novices coming out the street. I mean, but basically they're trying to step up their level of trading to become somebody who trades professionally, does it, focuses on it 100%, and they don't have another job to focus on it. You also get guys that come from the commodity spits, because the commodity markets are dead right now. We have low inflation, commodities have been going down, so there's not a lot of volatility and not a lot of opportunity to make money down there.
Okay. Now, look what's going on at Microsoft.
See, even though there are all these stories about housewives and dentists and cab drivers who chuck it all to become day traders, this guy was the only person I met who didn't have some kind of background on Wall Street. Luis was an engineer with an oil company.
Well, there's no logic to the market anymore. I've been following the market for more than 20 years, and it used to be that you could buy a share of basically on what it's worth. But when you have companies that are just a bunch of screens and keyboards and servers that are worth more than huge corporations, things don't make sense anymore. It's kind of like a drug, I think. And it's pretty hard to get away from that screen.
Really?
There's the opening bell. We begin trading on the New York Stock.
Ray Dove sits next to Kenny, and he's typical of the sort you meet here. I watched him at work one morning.
I went to college with anticipation of getting a bachelor's of science in computer programming. That was a little boring for me. I didn't really like it, so I switched to accounting, which was still a little bit boring, especially working for a large corporation.
On an average morning, Ray will make as many as 50 round trips, 50 purchases and sales.
On a good period in the market where I'm really heavy, I'll very easily go to about $1 million in equity at one time in positions. And I don't even blink an eye. It doesn't bother me.
5 minutes ago, I told you I should stop trading. Now I've sat back down, I've lost money. Whenever you think something, go with your first instinct.
Right now, I'm up about $7,000, which is pretty good. And I've had much better days and much better mornings than that. I had much better 15 minutes than that, but I also have a lot worse. You know, I don't even like taking vacations because I'm afraid I might miss a great day. You know, some of my really good days are pretty good.
My parents were teachers all their lives, so they were making, my dad was a teacher 25 years ago, he was making $16,000, you know? And over the course of 30 years, you know, I don't know what a top teacher makes now. What do they make, 60 grand? You know, hopefully I'm gonna make 4 times what my dad made this year. It took him 25 years to get to this point. I should make 4 times what he made this year if I keep up what I'm doing right now. To me, that's ludicrous, that I can do that. And the sad part is, I should make more than that. I should make a whole ton more of that.
People ask me what he does. I say, I don't know. He works in the stock market. Then they ask me, who does he work for? I don't know. He works for himself. You know, and that's all. I don't go into any detail. And then, like, they're asking me, is he doing well? I say, I hope so. I'd like to see him out of the house. You know, like, he's 27 years old. I'd like to see him get married. He's going with the same girl 3 years. You know, he says he's waiting, he's saving up to get him a ring. I mean, I assume he's not making enough. I mean, what excuse does he have? I'm waiting for him to leave.
This is ABC News Nightline, brought to you by First Union.
To really understand what day trading is, take a look at what it's not. These gentlemen are analysts with Massachusetts Financial Services, a mutual fund in Boston. It's their job to pore over the details, the fine print, minutiae.
Greg, didn't you share with me a statistic saying a significant percentage of the mid-price hotels out there are more than 10 or 15 or 20
really boring stuff about each and every company in which they invest.
I don't really care what the company does. Could care less, actually. What I'm concerned about is if it breaks a certain point, a moving average, you know, if it holds its support, if it breaks a resistance, and then I'm buying or selling. That's what I base it on. It's all charts.
Yikes. I mean, this is the executive boardroom at Massachusetts Financial services.
Meet here, and this is where, you know, they review performance and talk about changes in investment objectives.
And this is an industry that believes in analysis and long-term investment. It's only been the explosion of online trading and discount brokers that's put pressure on traditional Wall Street firms. Their profits come not only from commissions charged on every transaction, but the advice they provide their clients.
We are an information conduit. We really create value more by saying this is the right investment for you, this is the investment that your portfolio ought to be looking at, and here's the company's development.
You can invest for the long term and you can make judgments about how well a company's going to do in the next 5 or 10 years. But for the next, anything further than the next few moments, I think is very, very difficult to predict. And if you're going to try to trade intraday, you can't predict where a stock's going to be tomorrow, but I think you can predict where a stock's going to be in the next 3 or 4 minutes.
It's short-term versus long-term greed. That's how I would perceive it. I mean, short-term greed, you can trade a stock for 20 minutes, 2 hours or 2 days. That's no way to accumulate wealth.
The industry has never been enthused about anything that empowers the public. And the day has come where technology makes it possible where the public should not be in the dark. And that's what this is about. This should have happened a long time ago.
And that's really the basis of day trading. Kyle and Joe run edgetrade.com, where Kenny and Ray do their trading. It works like this. You have to put $25,000 into an account. For that, EdgeTrade gives you a terminal and a training program and takes a small commission on every trade.
2 years ago, I opened up an account here with $25,000. Right now, not including anything that I took out, I have about $500,000 in my account right now. So in about 2 years, if you look at it as far as percentage of growth, it's phenomenal.
And it's all about the screen, the software that allows the day trader to see the bids of all the major brokerages.
The way we gauge the markets or the momentum in the markets is by taking a look at the direction in which the market makers are moving. So if we see that a bunch of stocks and market makers are upticking or coming up in green, we know that the market's moving up on those stocks. And not only do the colors help us, but the speed at which the tickers are moving.
Well, of course, that's exactly what bothers Wall Street professionals. Momentum trading, buying a stock simply because it's moving.
Unbelievable.
We're using this more for a gauge of momentum. Really, I mean, no one could actually track what's going on here. I mean, you can't sit there.
I'm glad you said that.
Right.
Yeah.
Even I can't sit here and memorize every time I see something moving. But what I could get at a quick glance is I know that all of these are industry groups.
Right.
And I can get a quick glance of if they're all green and moving up, then I know that whole industry's got some momentum in it right now.
I figured out that once I sell something, that's when the real move comes. I mean, it was all right. I felt good about myself for about 5 minutes. I bought something at 31. I sold it at 31 and a half. About 15 seconds later, made $500 in 15 seconds. Hey, if I could do that every 15 seconds, I'll be the richest man in the world. But as you see now, it went to 40 and a half. That's 8 points more. So if I would have been a little bit more patient, I would have made $8,000 instead of only making 500. So now I'm going to sit here and be angry about it. And as I sit here and mope about missing this one, the other one that I want to buy has gone up 4 points. So rule number 14, don't mope. Go on to the next thing and have a short-term memory.
People who come home from work and they see a stock is up 10 points during the day and they perceive that, oh, if they were only watching a quote screen or if they were watching the market, that they might be able to buy it at the bottom and sell it at the top and make 10 points. That's just not a reality. And if a stock goes from 80 to 90, they might have done a trade from 82 to 82 and a half, making small trades all on that move. And they might have lost along that move and made along that move. But they certainly would not have bought it at the bottom and sold it at the top. The only way you can really capture those moves is if you were an investor, but you take on the risk of it going down 10 points as well.
Like one I had this morning, I had 7,000 shares of, what the hell was the stock? 7,000 shares of it, I can't remember it.
I mean, a day trader is not an investor. That's the thing to remember. A day trader is someone who missed the bus to Atlantic City, it seems to me, and ought to be. If it wasn't for this, they're pulling slot machines and throwing dice. This is gambling, pure and simple.
traveling through Arizona.
Join
Of course, we started the first mutual fund in the country in 1924.
This is the headquarters of that Boston Mutual Fund.
Sherman Adams, one of the founding trustees in 1924. Henry Sawyer, Thomas Cabot, classic New England Yankee names.
And here's the Brooklyn headquarters of Kenny Glick.
Honey, I'm home. This is my house. This is a combination of my grandmother's old furniture and my parents' furniture, which they think goes well. It's exciting. I still regret that I didn't put my full name on my diploma. I don't know what I was thinking. It looks silly. Kenny S. Glick. It should be Kenneth. Not that anybody calls me Kenneth.
He went to school. He studied TV radio. I thought he'd be doing like you're doing. You know, like I figured I had like the next Howard Stern, the next Seinfeld. You know, I keep waiting for him to become discovered. He did like, you know, stand up where he wasn't getting paid for it, where you got Pips, and he played the mouse and like the Nutcracker, crawling all over the floor. And then him and his friend, they used to make their own videos.
This is my buddy Mike, who I do all my
We watched about an hour of the videos he'd done in high school, which were high school videos.
Welcome to VTV, the only 20-minute video station.
Oh, this is terrible.
Why? Because you can't afford any more airtime.
Okay, there we go. VTV. What does V stand for? Anything in particular?
Video.
Oh, all right.
Most of the jobs that I had in the past, all I did was make copies. So.
This is why I thought that he was going to go into, you know, like, into comedy. Because he was doing this, like, right, you know, like all along when he was growing up. And his friends, you know, working for MTV.
That was a good picture of him.
Yeah,
That's what he looks like when he comes home.
That's a bullet in my head. He really has no concept of what it is. You know, I always come home and tell her the war story of, war, woulda, shoulda. I mean, I think I use the word woulda and shoulda and coulda more than any human being on this face of the earth.
I find out, like, how he did, and then we have our woulda, coulda, shoulda conversation. Like, he always tells me, I should have done this, I would have done that, I could have got that. And we go through this every day, and I tell him, get a job.
After a while, I told her to just, you know, when I walk in the door, just don't, she's always just asked me, so did you make money today? You know, it's more than that. It's, you know, I don't want to just talk about, you know, did I make money? You know, ask me how I'm feeling, you know? So here I am working on Wall Street. I failed accounting. I never took any economics class other than the intro to. But meanwhile, I know just as much as anybody else. You know, I don't have an MBA. I don't have any of that stuff.
But maybe not having any of that stuff isn't what rankles people so much about day trading. Because even before the events of the past week pushed it back in the headlines, there was something just unseemly about chasing money for its own sake. So maybe Kenny should have listened to his mother, could have gone into show business. He would have realized that filling your pockets isn't the same as fulfilling your dreams.
The American dream, I think, is to, you know, raise a nice family and, you know, enjoy your life. Right now, if I can keep up what I do for the next 5 years, I'll be able to have the American dream without really even having to work that hard anymore. Now that's a dream come true.
It may be a generational thing, but I'm with Ken.